The Pro Wrestling Almanac Podcast. Celebrating professional wrestling from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. For wrestling fans, by wrestling fans. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Almanac Podcast. This is our 4th episode, and we're still somehow doing this thing. We haven't lost interest yet. It's amazing. I'm Tristan, and with me, as always, is my hetero life mate, Cornfed, Big Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
And my special ed cousin, Chad.
Semi-special ed.
Okay, I'm sorry. He gets to ride in a normal bus, but somebody has to walk him to the bathroom. So, how's it going, guys? How's life? What you been up to?
Nothing much, man. Just trying not to have people kill me like today.
Really?
Oh.
Somebody tried to kill you today?
Someone tried to kill me today. Yeah, well, I mean, not intentionally, but
well, then they must not have known you.
That's true. Some idiot decided to blow through a stoplight while I was working and doing about 65 miles per hour and missed hitting my truck by about 6 inches. So.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of car was he driving?
Well, he was driving a Charger.
Oh, I love when things are totally appropriate like that.
Well, I just assumed that Mike was standing there as the stop sign.
Now, why would you possibly think that?
I mean, Mike's a big guy. He could have been wearing a red shirt playing the stop sign.
Stop signs are not that big, though.
Some of them are.
See, I see what the problem here is, Mike, is you were wearing camo pants, and he thought you were Sergeant Slaughter.
No, I was wearing my John Cena shirt.
The guy couldn't see you.
See me.
The better question is, which one was it? Because some of those Cena shirts are bright.
It was the camouflage one from his...
I'm bright, you just have to give me a minute.
So you're like what is it? One of the compact fluorescent bulbs? Oh boy!
Sometimes I flicker.
You're basically telling me the only reason that we actually talk to him is because the government's mandating us to. We have no choice.
I'm pretty sure I said that on the first episode. All right. Well, there's probably 3 or 4 minutes we're going to edit out.
He's already started. He's like, shit, I'm not going to be able to get this done until like 1 a.m. By the way,
1? I've been up till 4:30 the last 2 weeks.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
Well, let's try not to get you there.
Mostly I'm just editing out all of the ums and the you knows and the fact that Mike can't say a complete sentence without pausing for effect, like he's Triple H in 2000 cutting a promo.
Oh. Called a promo, big guy. If you want to be,
you want to be the top guy, you're gonna have to learn
how to do them.
Oh man, we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
For right now, let's go ahead and jump right into the wrestling results roundup. The Wrestling Results Roundup. Here are the results of this week's televised shows. On NXT, Lars Sullivan fought No Way Jose to a no contest. Peyton Royce beat Sarah Logan, and United Kingdom champion Pete Dunne and Wolfgang beat Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. On Lucha Underground, Sexy Star beat Veneno in a mask versus mask match. Prince Puma beat Pentagon Dark to win the Cueto Cup. And Lucha Underground champion Johnny Mundo beat Rey Mysterio Jr. On GFW Impact Wrestling, OVE Jake and Dave Christ beat the Heatseekers, Elliot Russell and Sigmund, and Eli Drake won a gauntlet for the gold to win the vacant GFW World Heavyweight Championship. On WWE Main Event, Heath Slater beat Kurt Hawkins, and the Brian Kendrick beat Lince Dorado. On GFW Explosion, Taiji Ishimori beat Andrew Everett, and Laurel Van Ness beat Ava Story. On Ring of Honor TV, IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions War Machine, Raymond Rowe and Hanson beat Jay White and Jonathan Gresham. Josh Woods beat Shane Taylor, and Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, fought the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin to a no contest. On WWE Raw, Jeff Hardy won a 15-man battle royal to become the #1 contender to the Intercontinental Championship. Enzo Amore beat Noam Dar. Cesaro beat Raw Tag Team Champion Seth Rollins. Raw Tag Team Champion Dean Ambrose beat Sheamus. Emma beat Mickie James. John Cena and Roman Reigns beat Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. And Alexa Bliss beat Sasha Banks to win the Raw Women's Championship. On WWE SmackDown Live, Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable beat The Ascension, Connor and Victor. United States Champion AJ Styles beat Ty Dillinger. Bobby Roode beat Mike Kanellis. Aiden English beat Sami Zayn. SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay Uso, beat The New Day, Big E and Kofi Kingston. Tamina beat Tina Stock, and Randy Orton and Shinsuke Nakamura beat WWE Champion Jinder Mahal and Rusev. On WWE 205 Live, the Brian Kendrick beat Jack Gallagher in a no disqualification match. Rich Swann beat Arya Davari, and Enzo Amore, Cedric Alexander, and Gran Metalik beat Drew Gulak, Tony Nese, and Noam Dar. And that's all for this week's Wrestling Results Roundup. Yeehaw! Okay, so that was the Wrestling Results Roundup, and let's jump right into this week's news. Let's talk about the big wrestling news for the week. I would say is the incident at AAA Triple Mania between Sexy Star and Rosemary, where Sexy Star decided that she was in an actual fight and dislocated Rosemary's shoulder, and they thought at the time tore her AC joint.
Dude, now that was gnarly.
Yeah, and now she is getting blackballed, basically. Like, I have never seen anything like it. I follow hundreds of wrestlers on Twitter through the Pro Wrestling Almanac Twitter. That's at PW Almanac on Twitter, by the way. And I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, the closest thing that I can recall, I mean, of course, it didn't exist. It happened pre-social media as we know it today. But almost a similar instance was when Daniel Pruder tried to rip off Kurt Angle's arm during that one segment and just kept going and going. But I mean, yeah, it was, I watched the video. I mean, it was ridiculous. And yeah, it's just catching a rash of crap from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Cody Rhodes came out and basically said that he would not work any show she was booked on. She's already had a few bookings canceled. There's all sorts of wrestlers are coming out saying that they will not work shows that she is on, that they should cancel her bookings. I mean, if this doesn't blow over, her career's over.
Oh yeah,
she's done.
Yeah.
If this doesn't blow over.
No, my thing with the whole thing is I mean, as soon as I heard about it, the first thing I did, I Googled it, and I see the video of what happened. Not trying to get into much personal thing, but I did MMA for a while, and they say when you put on an armbar, don't put it on too quick with the person if you lock it in the right way, because it'll mess you up real quick if you do it wrong.
You're speaking like this was an accident. It was not an accident.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm saying that you can intentionally do it with the other person not even knowing that you're going to do anything.
Oh, definitely. But this was...
You can actually see the full second it happens in the video, because it's like pull, and then she leans back forward and she snatches her arm back down.
Yeah, that was intentional. It was 100%
split second of when that happens. Even when Del Rio or El Patron used to put on the armbar, he used to snatch it down, but he never had his legs wrapped around the person's arm.
Well, that's the thing. it was probably a planned move, but she just, I mean, when you watch her start wrenching on it repeatedly.
So I guess Vampiro dragged Sexy Star over to Rosemary after the show to apologize, and she gave some half-assed apology and made a bunch of excuses, apparently, according to Rosemary. And given the circumstances, she's the one I'm likely to believe. This is up there with, like you said, Daniel Puder, or when Hardcore Holly went to town on Matt Capitelli.
When Jerry Lawler broke Paul Heyman's jaw?
Yeah.
Okay, some of the tweets on this incident. First one coming in from Cody Rhodes, at Cody Rhodes. Sexy Star will never set foot in one of my locker rooms. I hope others follow suit. Brian G. James, at WWE Road Dogg. Are we 100% sure she did this maliciously? If so, what's her name? Let's get it out to every booker out there and blacklist her. Disgusting. Gail Kim Irvine, at Gail Kim ITSME. Disgusting is just one word. We put our lives in each other's hands. So unprofessional. This is how you work yourself out of the business. And it just keeps going and going and going. And like Trista was saying earlier about Vampiro, they made her go back in, apologize to the entire locker room, and apologized to Rosemary, but then she was turning around lying about the situation, about what actually happened. Here is the response from Rosemary. It says, let me make this perfectly clear. If you take liberties with someone's body when they are giving it to you and trusting you keep them safe, you are not tough. You're an asshole, and you don't belong in the business. Sexy Star decided to do just that this weekend at Triple Mania, and while I have remained quiet on social media until I was more calm to address the situation, I have now been informed that she is telling people that it is a work. You are all now being informed that Sexy Star is a liar. She was a liar in the locker room when she was forced to apologize and instead cooked up some BS excuse that she didn't know, and she is a liar now. You know, if you were torquing on someone's arm, you know an armbar is real and a dangerous hold. The only reason your face is not broken right now is because a little voice inside my head as I lay on the apron kept repeating, don't go to Mexican prison. Thanks, Demon. However, turning to positives, the outreach from the wrestling community has been incredible. I'm overwhelmed with how much love I feel right now from friends, fans, and people I have met in this amazing business. We are a family and we protect our own. If you violate that, you are not welcome here. I want to thank the AAA locker room. Multiple people came up to me saying how sorry and disgusted they were. Thank you, Hamada and Shani, who also had to deal with the BS from Star during that match. Thank you, Vampiro, for professionally trying to calm a volatile situation, though, as you know, once the excuses started pouring out of Sexy Star's mouth in lieu of an apology, it was over. Thank you to the amazing GFW locker room, both present that night and not. I have so much support from everyone, and talented crew and office have all reached out to show me that.
All right. That says it all. So, yeah, not a cool situation. So, the next story I want to cover is the PWI 500 list came out yesterday. Kazuchika Okada is number 1. And this is a huge deal because this is the first time that a wrestler from a non-US based promotion has ever been number 1 in the PWI 500. And it really couldn't go to a more deserving guy than Kazuchika Okada, I think. Now, whether or not I think he deserves to be at number 1 is a completely different story. But if anyone deserved to be the first guy outside the US to get it, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody more deserving than Okada.
I agree. I mean, the fact that he's there just shows you how good those matches with Kenny Omega were. They are the reason he's there. I maybe think Kenny Omega should be a little bit higher on the list than he is, instead of sitting at the number 5 slot, just based off of those 3 matches that they had. But I think it's a good choice.
Wins and losses. So the fact that
is
he
true.
did not win those matches and Okada did is what puts him lower. But Omega won the U.S. title, so that's a big thing, and that's probably what's got him in the top 10, aside from those classics with Okada.
Let's go down with a list of the top 10. Starting at number 10, we have The Miz on the list. Number 9, we have Bobby Roode. Number 8, we have Samoa Joe. Number 7 is Dean Ambrose. Number 6 is Nakamura. Number 5 is Kenny Omega. 4 is Roman Reigns. 3 is Kevin Owens. Number 2 is AJ Styles. And number 1 is Okada.
Here's where I stand on this. Bobby Roode and Nakamura, they were in NXT most of the year. Now, I've heard it argued that NXT, and with merit, that NXT has really proven themselves to be the real number 2 promotion in the U.S. So I don't think it's unfair that Bobby Roode and Nakamura would be in the top 10. I just don't know if they really did enough to deserve to be in the top 10. But at the same time, I can't see who later in the list, in the 11 through 20, could displace them.
Yeah, no, and you're probably right. I mean, I can't really think of anybody else off the top of my head that could replace them in the top 10 at all. So,
why am I the only one questioning Roman Reigns at number 4?
Probably just because you're listening more to crowd reactions than what he's actually accomplishing. He's winning big matches, he's holding championships, he's main eventing pay-per-views, he's retiring legends. He deserves to be where he's at.
Well, but the only reason he retired The Undertaker is because Cena couldn't have done it. It was always meant for Cena to take the retirement match.
That's only ever been speculation. I mean, The Undertaker himself said that he wanted to have his last match against Kane and have Kane beat him. So,
I'm already looking at this list right now.
Yeah.
And I almost feel that there's at least 1 to 2 guys who are currently on this list who probably will not be in the top 10 next year unless they get a major push throughout the year.
Ambrose
and Bobby Roode.
Yep. Well, Bobby Roode I definitely agree with. He was at the top of his promotion, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's what NXT is. He was exactly. And he was the top of NXT for a good chunk of the year. And for the rest of the time, it was Nakamura, who is higher than him on the list. So,
well, and that's who Roode took the title from.
Right. Another big story this week, Asuka. She has forfeited the NXT Women's Championship, and William Regal, as general manager of NXT, said that he was negotiating for her to move to Raw or SmackDown, and as such, she elected to forfeit the championship. The forfeiture is probably because of her injury, but could it be any more serendipitous?
Nobody was going to beat her. I mean, nobody has, nobody will.
I don't know who would have. Except maybe Shayna Baszler when she wins the Mae Young Classic, but
I like the fact that they had her relinquish the title. Now, what is that?
Rumor has it, and we're going to emphasize, rumor has it that they are going to give the title to the winner of the Mae Young Classic.
There's also another rumor, and we'll stress rumor again. I was reading an article where the plans are for Asuka to continue her undefeated streak when she comes to the main roster. Allegedly, it looks like she might be going to the Raw brand, where she will win the title when she comes onto the roster and will hold that title for a lengthy time. It'll be interesting to see what they do with her. She had an amazing run up in NXT. That streak is the longest streak that we've had for a reigning champion in a very long time. I just think that they need to continue the unbeaten streak, get it to a very good long run, let her take the title, and then see who she's going to face at WrestleMania. If and when she was to lose, that might just be the perfect place for that to happen.
Depending on who it is.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, the way I think what could happen, and this is just me, depending on, and we just talked about the rumor where they're talking about the winner of the Mae Young Classic being given the NXT title.
Yes.
And you and I both agree. I've always thought from the very beginning that it was going to be Shayna Baszler winning the whole competition.
Yeah. I think that's a terrible idea to give them the title, give her the title.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, because you have other women who have been wrestling in NXT a lot longer that deserve the title more than people who were brought in for a one-off tournament. the only thing that I can see is if they do give Shayna Baszler the title, she's not going to hold on to it for a long time. Because if the rumor's true, and I don't know if you've read articles that I have, where they have talked about potentially next year, 2018, doing a Women's Royal Rumble.
I've heard that. We've discussed that.
So the question is, guys, we've discussed Asuka, we've discussed everything. Who on the main roster right now can beat Asuka?
For me, if she goes to SmackDown, Charlotte. If she goes to Raw with the current lineup, other than the match she had against Ember Moon, the only other person that gave Asuka a real good run for her money was Nia Jax, and that was a very interesting match with the two of them. So I think that's who I'd go with.
The one person that I would pick is Charlotte Flair. She hasn't faced Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, or Sasha Banks, so it's one of those three.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to disagree with you on that one. So
okay, now while we're talking about the women's title on Raw, Alexa Bliss took the women's title back from Sasha Banks after making a whole huge ordeal about how Sasha has never defended the title. She was proven right and did not defend the title yet again. So, one, what I want to know is this a result of Bayley being injured and trying to get a moment for the women's title at SummerSlam? And two, is this possibly the beginning of a Sasha Banks heel turn? Because she definitely, watch her NXT stuff, she definitely works better as a heel. So what do we think, guys?
Oh, man. I think it's got a little bit of both. Alexa Bliss, I think, makes such a great heel. And it really evolved into the Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. But I also think that there does need to be that heel turn for Sasha Banks.
Well, here's the question, though. Since this title came out at WrestleMania last year, how many times has it changed hands already?
We've had several different champions.
And part of that goes back to me thinking that, when she makes her debut, Asuka's gonna go to Raw, and I think it would be nice to see that title get a long reign. It was funny because if I remember correctly, every time Sasha, and it's kind of a reverse, they talked about her breaking the pay-per-view curse, but here it is, she had always won it on Monday Night Raw, lost it at a pay-per-view, and then she wins it at a pay-per-view and then loses it at Monday Night Raw.
I just think that it just shows that the plan, in my mind, it shows that the plan was never to have the title change hands. I think that if I'm looking at it logically from what I see, I think that the plan was for Bayley to lose to Alexa Bliss at SummerSlam, Nia Jax to come down, celebrate, turn on Alexa.
Makes sense.
The last piece of news that I want to cover before we move on is they've signed the Cena Reigns match for No Mercy, and it really seems like they're going all out at No Mercy. I'm certain that the plan was to do Cena Samoa Joe at No Mercy. They were working house shows. Samoa Joe got hurt. Apparently it's minor. It's gonna be out 4 weeks as of right now, but they've accelerated the Cena Reigns match, and it's happening at No Mercy. So basically, No Mercy is turning into WrestleMania Junior, it seems like, with Strowman, Lesnar, and now Cena Reigns.
This is an article that I was reading on WrestleZone.com. Basically, it states that the WWE initially held off on Roman Reigns versus Cena at No Mercy because the pay-per-view is scheduled to be Brock Lesnar's final pay-per-view title defense this year. With Lesnar taking some time off after the pay-per-view, WWE wanted a Cena versus Reigns feud to carry the company through the months Lesnar is absent. Reigns versus Cena would likely have taken place at either TLC, Survivor Series, or possibly at both events. However, yesterday morning, John Cena reportedly dropped major news on WWE, alerting them that he would be unavailable to compete while he's shooting his new Transformers spin-off movie, Bumblebee. One of the film's producers, Brian Goldner, is said to be strongly against the idea of Cena wrestling in WWE while he shoots the movie in case an injury takes place. The Dirty Sheets reports points to the bad bump Cena took during his match against Shinsuke Nakamura as possible but not confirmed reason why the film producer does not want Cena Cena competing in the WWE. As a result of the above, No Mercy will be John Cena's final pay-per-view appearance until he has finished filming the movie, leaving the WWE without Cena or Lesnar for TLC taking place in October and Survivor Series in November. What a promo.
Yes, absolutely. Cena made Reigns look terrible, which I don't necessarily know if that was a good thing.
That following Miz's promo the week prior, I mean, back-to-back weeks with promos like those are absolutely amazing. That promo was incredible from Cena.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah, it was. Everything from him interrupting Reigns. I mean, just that line of, it's a promo, buddy. If you want to be the top guy, you need to learn how to do these.
I think my favorite part of the entire thing was when Cena called him young man.
Oh.
And when he said, with all due respect, I am not The Undertaker. I am not a beat-up legend with a bad hip.
I love how he turned around and said, you know, you keep blaming me for getting buried, yet I haven't headlined WrestleMania in 5 years.
Yep. I mean, for real, like from beginning to end. I mean, Roman Reigns had some good stuff, but when you can just tell that he and Cena are in different leagues, because Cena is able to go off the cuff and feel the crowd and keep going, and Reigns forgot his lines and froze.
Literally, Roman Reigns was playing in a league that was way above his pay grade.
Yeah.
If the plan is to have Cena put Reigns over at No Mercy, I don't know how the WWE goes through with that after what happened on Monday Night Raw.
Well, I mean, they're going to. If it wasn't the plan before, it's definitely the plan now, because Cena's not going to be around for however many months, and so you can't have Cena beat Reigns and then disappear, and Reigns has to be the one to carry the storyline now.
I can truly say that this is one of those few scenarios, based off of the way they are booking this match leading up to No Mercy. I mean, I'm very interested to see where this goes next Monday. I really don't know which way it's going to go. I mean, most of the time, we all pretty much have a good idea as to where they're going, who's going to win, who's going to lose. I really have no clue right now. It is truly, in my opinion, a 50-50 throw-up right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So it'll be interesting to see where it goes with. So,
all right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move into the Ghosts of Wrestling's Past.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold?
I am.
Who? What are you?
I'm the ghost of
Wrestling's
past.
All right, guys. WrestleMania 20, where it all began again. For me, this was a pay-per-view that changed my view on wrestling. I've never been. I'm not a diehard. I don't watch the WWE every single week. I do try to catch the pay-per-views, but I'm not on the network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, I have other interests.
Poser.
Hey, you know, I'm just being honest. I mean, if you told me, hey, we got Monday Night Raw where the Los Angeles Kings are playing the Detroit Red Wings, I'm going to watch the Kings-Red Wings game. I love wrestling, but I am not a die-hard wrestling fan. With that being said, though, I'm also no more than the average, you know, Johnny-come-lately casual fan. I'm just in that, you know, unique scenario. WrestleMania 20 for me, and we'll kind of run down the card really quick. Let me pull it up right here. First match of the evening, John Cena defeated The Big Show. First title in the WWE, saw a little bit of a heelish persona using the knuckles. Thought it was a good match. Your guys' take?
It was a strong opener. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was that good of an actual wrestling match, from a star perspective or something like that. But it had the crowd entertained.
No, definitely.
And it was a good opener to get the crowd fired up.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it did the job to open a WrestleMania.
Good old school freestyle and Cena just to open up. It lightens the mood. It makes it. Made it pretty cool. I want to say this is probably the second pay-per-view I really remember watching, so it holds a special place with me. Just the fact of John Cena and The Big Show, I know it's happened a few times, but watching him actually pick up The Big Show when he was really big in The Big Show and just all that stuff. It wasn't a great match, like Tristan said. It's not. Most of the time with the bigger guys, they don't really move as well, so the smaller guys got to do a lot more work. The crowd was into it. That's what made it good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. A lot of people talk about this WrestleMania, the fact that it was the 20th WrestleMania, once again, back at Madison Square Garden. This show kind of gets mixed reviews. Yes. It was very top heavy. It was a very top heavy card and extremely good matches at the top of the card. Oh. Not really that strong towards the middle. I mean, there are matches that if we look back at the card, fifth match on the card for WrestleMania 20 is a match that we will never see again.
Playboy Evening Gown match.
Exactly. We'll never see that kind of a match again.
And you know what? Thank God. Because
I agree.
At the time, I was 23 years old when this aired. I was probably digging the hell out of it. But
I can tell you I was.
Listening to Michael Cole and Taz, it was worse than listening to Jerry Lawler. Michael Cole and Taz.
It totally was.
Like little children. It was annoying. It took time away from other things that maybe those tag matches. There was, yeah, sure, it got a pop. Did anyone at WrestleMania buy a ticket to see that match? No.
I can tell you right now that, especially being the father of three girls, I mean, yeah, you're right. When that WrestleMania happened, I was 21 years old. Yeah, it was great when I was a 21-year-old kid, but I look back at it now and it's like, my daughter loves watching wrestling with me. I mean, she watched at least the first two episodes of the Mae Young Classic. Mm-hmm. Is that really the kind of match I would ever want her to watch again now, and then have to explain to her, honey, this is what happened 15 years ago?
It's the kind of wrestling that I would have that I would fast forward with my kids now.
Exactly.
No joke.
The other one, which, we'll never see another match like that again, and she's one of my favorite women wrestlers of all time, but we'll never see another match like they had between Victoria and Molly Holly.
No.
I mean, good match, but that kind of a stipulation, hair versus title,
I don't necessarily know that that's true. That is definitely one that I could see happening again with the right person in the right circumstances.
Just saying the visual of it,
okay,
especially in today's day and age, I just don't see them.
I think you're looking at it from the complete wrong direction. If it's a woman doing it to another woman, there's no problem. If it was a situation where, say, Stevie Richards had been affiliated with Victoria, and let's say that he came out and strapped her to the chair and shaved her head, that would be a problem today.
Or even if he held her down while
she did it. Yes, that would be a problem. Yeah. That would be a problem today. The fact that it was a woman versus a woman with a stipulation, and the stipulation was carried out with nobody's help but the guy handing her the clippers.
No, that's true. That's true.
That, to me, is a little, I would even be considered empowering.
Yeah.
That the women are doing the same stipulations as the men. I think you're looking at it from the complete wrong way.
You're right. You changed my mind on that one. I will agree with you on that.
Right.
Now, getting to the one match, and this is the one that everybody talks about, but this for me, I would almost say is when I went from being a wrestling mark to being considered a smart. Yep. Was the Goldberg-Lesnar match.
Okay, so I have to jump in here. And I have to tirade a little bit. We've talked about this match a bunch. We even brought it up last week. I have said this was not a good match. I decided to do something. I watched the match with the sound off. It is a good match. It is a better match than the matches that they had this year, for sure. The match itself wasn't all that different from Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior, in that it was the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. And this was the first real example that I can see of the internet wrestling community as a whole throwing a tantrum and deciding that because they weren't getting what they wanted, they were going to hold their breath until their face turned blue and they passed out. At the time, I got it. I was with it. I understood. But watching it now, 13 years later? Mm-hmm. And...
Oh, that hurts.
With a little bit of, history behind me and a little bit of experience behind me, and seeing how the IWC treats guys like Roman Reigns and how they treat guys like John Cena. And it's almost exclusively the IWC, because you look at, everybody says, oh, well, it's just the women and children that cheer for Cena. Go to one of these military shows and see how the military almost unanimously supports John Cena. Now, those ain't women and children. And so, and then even more so, the way that they hijack the Raws after the big pay-per-views. They were cheering for Roman Reigns to win the Rumble when it came down to him and Batista. And then the next year, they hate Roman Reigns. Now, what really changed? Not much. I go out on a limb here because the people that are going to be listening to this podcast are the same people that I'm criticizing right now.
Definitely.
And I'm not trying to say that they don't have the right to voice their opinions. In fact, they should. But it seems to me that a lot of the time, what we are dealing with, it's like a spoiled kid who throws a tantrum anytime he's told no. And this Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg match is a prime example of that. Because if you watch the match and actually watch the match, in fact, I'll do one better. Turn the sound off. Watch the Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg match, and then watch the Undertaker versus Kane match. And you will see that the match, the Goldberg versus Lesnar match, is a substantially better match. But because of the crowd, one match stunk up the joint, while the other match did well. I'm done.
Okay. And I agree with you. I mean, to me, when I look at everything that is going on in the WWE today with the way the crowds react, it goes back to this. To me, this is the match when the IWC reared its head and struck back at the product. When word came out that this was going to be the last match for both Goldberg and Lesnar, that changed everything. Now, I'm not saying it was right, but I mean, when you listen to that match, the fans weren't interested in that match. They were more interested in themselves. And Austin even on his podcast, he was told after that match had ended, and if I remember correctly, it was Mike Yao who came up to him after the match was over and said, you have to give both of them a stunner now. And going back and watching that pay-per-view, it almost looks like once that whole scenario was over, the very next thing to happen after that match was Vince McMahon came out and addressed the crowd. And I don't know if that was planned or if he had to do something to get the crowd back on track.
I hadn't thought of
the
that.
Very next match.
I had not thought of that, and that actually makes a lot of sense.
Because I mean, I've never seen Vince come out and I mean, he's done it before, but I mean, at that exact time and place. Normally, he does it at the beginning of a WrestleMania. But, I mean, here it is coming in after the 7th match and saying, you know, we're back here, Madison Square Garden. It's all because of you, the fans, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, to me, watching this now 13 years later, it almost seemed like Vince had to go out there and cut a shoot promo to go, hey, you know, this crowd really turned on our product, and we still have another 6 matches to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I need to do something. That was my take on that. So, Chad?
Well, I mean, if there's 2 wrestlers that I could ever say that are my favorites, it's Bill Goldberg and The Undertaker. The thing I liked about the match is the fact it is a far superior product than what we saw this year, mainly because we actually got to see both men wrestle in a match where they could both do everything that they've been able to do. We all know that Bill Goldberg never had any good matches. He was an anomaly. That's why he was what he was. But seeing him gorilla press slam Brock Lesnar, or I guess he didn't press slam him, he military pressed him and then power slammed him on the ground, or on the mat. Just seeing that and a more technical match as opposed to spear, jackhammer, win. Okay, that's dumb.
16 German suplexes.
16 German suplexes, which, I mean, Tristan and I had this conversation the other day. I'm tired of it. I mean, Suplex City, that's all you have to know. You could, I mean, throw verticals. I mean, if you're going to take them to Suplex City, do more than just Germans.
As far as Goldberg, I mean, my only thing is, what do you expect a 50-year-old guy?
Oh, no, and I understand that. I understand the quick matches, but all I'm saying is, in the aspect of how this match was, it was far superior than the last 4 matches we saw by Goldberg.
Definitely.
So that's all I'm saying is, watching the 2 guys at their, we'll say at a peak. We'll say at their peak, they looked much better, much cleaner, much crisper, and the match was more enjoyable because you actually got to see both men do moves. Well, you got to see a more technical Brock Lesnar
than you see now. I agree. I did what Tristan said. I mean, because, you know, I had watched this match earlier in the week. I had talked to him earlier today, and he talked about how he watched the match with it being on mute. And I do. I recommend to everybody, go out there, watch it, because if you take the crowd out of the equation, it is a sound, solid match. I mean, it's not as bad as the reputation it gets because of the fans taking a crap on it.
Right.
So, let's get to the top of the card.
Well, one thing I wanted to say before we get to the top of the card, because we missed one match, and it was actually the Evolution versus who was it? Evolution versus Rock and Sock Connection. I want to say, because I don't remember hearing it before, but it could have been before. Was that the first time we heard the RKO out of nowhere?
So you mean specifically using the term RKO out of nowhere?
It was Jim Ross saying, and it was an RKO out of nowhere. Because he just popped up. It was getting ready to do the man call. He was waiting on him to turn around, and as soon as he turned around, he got Mankind or Mick Foley or whoever he was at that time. I guess he was Mick Foley with the RKO. And he goes, and there's Randy Orton with an RKO out of nowhere.
Possibly. I mean, normally when it comes to a situation like this, I normally defer to Tristan because the man is a walking encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to wrestling. So.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that that's where it came from. I mean, you know, JR has always coined some of the best lines when it comes to wrestling matches. So, I mean, would it surprise me? No. Is it a possibility that it was used prior to that? Possibly, but I can't recall. And if Tristan can't recall, I mean, you might be right on that one. Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, one of the best matches I've ever seen at WrestleMania. Watching this match,
it was probably the best WrestleMania match I had ever seen until about an hour later.
Which was an amazing match,
yeah,
too.
It was incredible.
It was. I mean, normally I'm not a big fan of a triple threat match. But that one worked. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
So
now,
we'll get back to
go back to Eddie and Kurt. How Kurt Angle could not be in anybody's top 10 greatest of all time, I do not understand. For me, greatest of all time, no particular order, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles, Bret Hart, Kurt Angle. Those are my top 5, without question. You get into the top 10, it gets a little bit more difficult, but those are my top 5. How Kurt Angle is not in everyone's top 5 or top 10, there's no way he couldn't be. The man came in, remember, he had only been in the WWE, he had only been a professional wrestler in the WWE for 4.5 years at this point. And the psychology of that man, his ability to read a crowd, the man is incredible.
You know, I agree with you. I personally think that if we never even took into consideration Kurt Angle's time with TNA and we only had the years that he was in the WWE, he still belongs in the top 10.
Yeah.
Just off of what he did.
He only made it into the WWE Hall of Fame based off of what he did in WWE, and he was only in WWE for less than 7 years.
Exactly. I mean,
not to mention the fact that he could do every part that you needed him to do. He could be serious Kurt. He could be goofy Kurt. He could be sexy Kurt.
This match just made me realize how much I miss Eddie Guerrero as a wrestler, period. Whether or not he was a heel, a face, no one has given a frog splash as good as he has. Top-notch performer. And watching the vignette leading up to that, just everything. I mean, the man was one of the best wrestlers out there. And truly, I mean, we miss him. I mean, imagine what he could have done if he wasn't taken from us so early. I mean, great match. Anybody else have anything to say about that one, or?
No, I mean, it was Eddie's one of those hard ones to talk about. I mean, especially going to high school with his daughter. I mean, I met the guy, nice guy, and knowing the family and stuff, especially when she was, I was in band in high school, and his daughter was one of the dancers in school, and I mean, they were always there. So it was weird. It definitely hit home when he passed away. So watching his matches are always great. I mean, I loved him back in WCW when he was a cruiserweight. I remember when he transitioned into WWE. Probably some of my favorite matches have had Guerrero in them. He's an all-around talent. And again, I like the technical stuff, and he's very, very technical.
I was crazy about the finish of that match. With the boot and everything.
The boot?
Yeah.
And then him rolling up Kurt Angle and then grabbing the bottom rope with his heel.
Yep.
Yeah.
It totally it fit Eddie's character. It was just a really good way to get out of the ankle lock, and it had never been done before. It hasn't been done since.
Yeah.
Well, and not to mention the fact that he's one of the few people that was a fan that actually would use the bottom rope or cheat and stuff like that to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean he was an amazing wrestler. It was a great match. I mean it's probably in my top 5 for all-time WrestleMania matches. So next match after that was the 11th match of the evening. By the way, the Eddie Guerrero Kurt Angle match went on for 21 minutes and 36 seconds. It's kind of weird that we talk about this, using the wrestling terms, but the cool-down match leading up to the final was an Undertaker match, which at the time, going into that, was one of the matches where a lot of people and Tristan and I, once again, we've talked about this, going into that, if the streak was going to be broken, was Kane going to be the one to do it?
There was barely a streak at that point, though. It got mentioned, but there was it never really talked about.
It never got to where it wasn't the mythical, because what was he, 12-0 going
after
into
that one? After that one.
So it was 11-0 going into that.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite WrestleMania entrances. It was a good match. It wasn't one of the great Undertaker matches at WrestleMania. I think kind of for some people, this is one of those that you might rank up there with, you put it not in the same category as a WrestleMania 9, which was just god awful, and we've discussed that, but it's not one of his more memorable matches, especially because of who he faced. And the whole match only lasted 7 minutes and 47 seconds. So, I mean, your guys' take on that?
The one thing, I mean, it wasn't a great match, but the one thing that did strike, or that I did notice, was when the Druids were coming out, because I was paying attention, because I was like, wow, we just talked about this. The guy with the extinguisher, he had a very important job in that, and he was putting out the fires after every Druid came out. And I think one of the Druids almost had their road catch on fire, because I saw him walking through a fire. So, but yeah.
I liked the storyline going into the match, and all of the stuff that they did leading up to the Undertaker's return was phenomenal. And considering that, because the Undertaker was not going to appear until WrestleMania, that the entire angle was done by Kane.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I think for me, other than the entrance, the best part of the match was watching Kane's reaction when Paul Bearer came out with the urn, and you can see him saying, you're dead. I buried you alive. Yep. You can't be back. I mean, it was that he did an amazing job. So,
yep.
Last match of the evening, we had Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Benoit in a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Now,
and you said, Tristan, up until that point,
yes,
Eddie Guerrero, Kurt Angle
was the best match I'd ever seen at WrestleMania.
Best match you had ever seen at WrestleMania. And then this match happened.
Yes. So this match was so good, and they tied back to so many things. Now, you want to talk about a match that is hard to watch and hard to listen to, because I mean, maybe I'm a little bit sensitive, and maybe I have a right to be sensitive considering what happened, but to hear them talk about Chris Benoit's killer instinct and things of that nature, it makes you a little queasy. But I'm going to get off of that and just kind of focus on the match. There were so many good things. Jerry Lawler kept talking about the fact that Chris Benoit had proposed an alliance between Shawn Michaels and himself to ensure that one of them became champion. And then the moment when they were standing on the table and Shawn Michaels and Triple H just looked at each other, and then they suplexed Chris Benoit through the table. The fact that Triple H and Shawn Michaels were bleeding, it added a lot to the match. I think my favorite part of the match was the fact that when it came down to it, Chris Benoit beat Triple H. And that was very important because Triple H was champion. And I know it's a triple threat match and anybody can get pinned, but in order for Chris Benoit to be seen as a legitimate champion, in my eyes, he had to beat the champion. To be the man, you've got to beat the man. And Agreed. He did. And it's so sad that we've lost this moment as one of the greatest WrestleMania moments of all time, because you had Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero. They came into the WWF together. They were both seen as smaller guys, cruiserweights, guys that were never going to make it to the top. And here they were at the main event of, at the time, the biggest WrestleMania, not just the latest WrestleMania, but the biggest WrestleMania that had happened in 10 years. And they were standing tall as the leaders and the standard bearers of their respective brands. And it was such a huge moment, and it has been forever tarnished because of what happened 3 years down the road. And I don't need to talk about it because everybody knows.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, for me, and maybe just because I've always had a different approach to things, period, in life. But, I mean, I can always separate Chris Benoit, the wrestler, from Chris Benoit, what he did.
I can too, which is the only reason I can watch these matches.
Exactly.
That doesn't make them easier to digest.
You know, for me, it's I don't really, it's not that it's tougher. I mean, I can still watch it, and I don't sit there and look at the match any less because of what he did.
Right, neither do I.
I mean, for me, I will always remember, and it will always be in my head, that image of Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit standing in the ring together, holding their titles as confetti is raining down.
Right, and you will always have that. But what I meant by it being lost is that future generations have lost that moment.
Oh, no, of course. I mean, they can always go back and watch it, but it will never be put out there. So that's it for WrestleMania 20. That's it for this week's edition of Ghosts of Wrestling's Past. Next week, Tristan is going to get to decide which one we're doing. So have you picked your...
I sure have.
Okay, what do we have?
So you had mentioned that maybe it was a little much doing an entire show every week.
Okay.
And the possibility of maybe doing matches. And I had mentioned earlier that my favorite match of all time is Bret Hart versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13. It's one of the most important matches that has ever taken place. And it is one of the most beautiful pieces of wrestling psychology that has ever happened. So I want to dissect that match, what led into it, and what came from it.
That's going to be very interesting. I definitely cannot wait for that. That too is one of my all-time favorite matches. So that'll be next week. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Yep. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different for this week's Indie Spotlight. On Saturday, I conducted an interview with Nick Gossert, who is the promoter of Lucha Libre and Laughs. Okay, so it's time for our Indie Spotlight for this week, and we got a nice little treat for you. Today we're going to be talking with Lucha Libre and Laughs promoter Nick Gossert. How you doing, Nick?
Hey there, doing all right. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. So Nick is one of the Colorado promoters that I've had the pleasure of meeting and befriending. As I've mentioned previously, I had, we'll call them delusions of grandeur of being a wrestling promoter myself, and a indie wrestler in Colorado referred me to Nick to get some advice on being a promoter because apparently he's pretty good at it. And Nick provided me with some great advice that ultimately wound up being for naught because my promotion thing just didn't come through, but it was all things that he didn't have to do. Met him in person at some podunk show up in Wyoming that he was refereeing on. Yeah.
Oh God, I sometimes I blocked that memory.
The meeting me or the show?
Oh boy.
Yeah,
not
but
my show, people. Don't think my shows were ever podunk.
No, he was refereeing on that show. Let's be very clear about that. We've communicated on social media since then. I've been to a few of his shows, and I've always just been really impressed with your product just because you're welcome. And it's a very it's a niche product, but it's not as niche as you would expect, because it's combining two elements of pop culture with each other, and it's probably the best combination since Mr. Reese's got his peanut butter on his chocolate.
Yep, I always say that, when people talk about the chemistry of it, say, hey, comedy and wrestling, it's the peanut butter and jelly of fun.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So why don't you just go ahead and give us a little background on the promotion? What got you wanting to do this? Because you've been around for about 4 years now, and
we had our 4-year anniversary show in May.
Yeah, congratulations! That's a big milestone. Not a lot of promotions, indie promotions, make it that far. They make it past that first show maybe, and then that's about it.
Because it's a tough job, we'll just say it that way.
I would imagine tough job with a tough clientele, and I'm referring to the people that are working for you as opposed to the audience. But so go ahead and give us a little background here. Tell us what brought this idea to your mind, and go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of the whole thing kind of came together. It was about 5 years ago. Nathan Lund, Sam Talent, our color commentators.
Funny guys.
Amazingly funny guys. Were putting together a festival here in town called Too Much Funstable. And they wanted wrestling. And I'd been kind of like on the peripheral of the lucha scene here. Me and my friend had been going to the shows for a while, met a bunch of the guys. As anybody involved in indie wrestling knows, if you hang out long enough, you will get the offer to referee matches, no matter how bad or unqualified you are.
It's true.
So we got some matches involved, and we had an amazing main event for the festival where we had two or three matches, and then a great band played, and then the comedians performed. And we were kind of thinking about it. We're like, God, there's something here. Like the chemistry was a little off, but there was just something at the energy of that show kind of stuck in the back of my brain. And then I had a lot of time to think about things because I broke my hand. Really, like, surgery required broken hand, so I was kind of on the shelf, couldn't really do a whole lot in anything. So I was just listening to wrestling podcasts, and I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? Maybe we should try this. This dumb idea I had where we would have the comedians performing between the matches, and then the comedians then provide the commentary for the matches. And I don't think really anybody knew what I was trying to do until they saw it. Like even the comics were like, so how does this work? Like when they got to the show. And so we put, fortunately, I immediately, they always say, you have to fail to learn to succeed. And I'd run comedy shows for a couple of years, so I knew what worked and what didn't work for just basic event promotion and making things work. So I was able to secure some very good sponsors up front. Dos Equis was a sponsor right out of the gate.
Wow.
Probably couldn't have, wouldn't have happened if it weren't for them. And we walked into this thing thinking like, oh, it'll be a fun one-off. It'll be this goofy thing we do once and we'll have a fond memory of it. And it did really well. So we're like, well, let's try this again, see what happens. So a couple months later, we did it again, and boom, it was even bigger. Then I got a little too big for my britches out of the gate and thought I could somehow make this work on like a Wednesday night as an experiment. Did not work. We got back to our groove. In our first year, we only did 6 shows because I was just like, I wasn't going to try to, go whole hog on the thing. So the first year we did 6 shows. Last year we did 16 shows. That's, including, because, we've always been at the Oriental Theater, which is an amazing, beautiful, historic venue here in Denver, Colorado. But we branched out. We now do mini shows at Ratio Beer Works, an amazing brewery here in town, a couple times a year. We're part of Denver Taco Festival. We're part of Boulder Taco Festival now. Wow. We've done special events at like the Square on 21st, here in town. We occasionally will pop into weird places, like weird festivals, like what we did at the Pavilions.
Right, the Zombie Brawl.
Yeah, the Zombie Brawl. You were there.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like a beautiful day. Probably about 1,000 people there. Everybody had fun. But yeah, we went from, as an addition to, we started off little show drawing, 125 people. to the point where we were selling out the venue at 550 people. Doing these performances at festivals where we're in front of thousands of people, where we went from using the just local talent to now you see sometimes 3 to 4 kind of bigger indie names on each and every show.
Yep.
So it has been a very interesting ride with a lot of growth over the last few years.
Well, you did some stuff with the Crom Comedy Festival, right?
Correct. Yeah, we weren't able to do it this year because of venue problems. Nobody's fault, just a weird paperwork issue with the brewery. So we kind of did a makeup show a couple of months later.
Okay, but you were out in you were in Kansas and Nebraska, and
with the Nebraska shows we've been doing shows in Sidney, Nebraska, which is like a cool little town, Elks Lodge. Always have a great time there.
Okay,
and then the big one we had in Nebraska was previous year when we were up in Omaha for Crom, where we had we lucked out. We had Bobcat Goldthwait,
yes,
comedian, Timmy Williams from Whitest Kids You Know as a feature. Our main event was Sammy Six Guns versus Eugene.
That's a big match.
With a really amazing run-in finish with Bobcat getting involved when that darn referee got knocked out.
Gee, I wonder who that referee could have been.
I don't know, but boy, you got hit pretty darn hard, I'll tell you that much.
I'm sure you're a pretty prolific referee. I know that you're the main referee for Lucha Libre and Laughs, and you also referee for Primos. So do you referee for any other promotions, or is it just those two?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Because when it's like when you first get involved in anything, you're like, oh my god, I'll do this anywhere, anytime, all the time. I was like, because you're so enthused about it.
Like when you first lose your virginity.
Exactly.
Right.
Like I just want to touch all the butts in the world.
Exactly.
So I was repping. So I would occasionally rep for some lucha shows, and that show in Wyoming where we met.
Oh yes.
And then it was just after you get literally hundreds of matches under your belt, you're like, I'm not, it's like I'll travel for some, like DWO down in New Mexico. Whenever I've gotten a ref down there, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I got yelled at by Jeff Jarrett there, so that was
fun. Like in the ring or backstage?
Oh yeah, no, we let's just say there was a little miscommunication on how something was supposed to go, and just nothing more fun than standing there on the outside. He's looking at me with this incredulous look on his face, and he yells, "Jesus Christ, kid, you're the drizzling. You're supposed to be in the ring." And it's like, oh man. But here's the thing: when you're the referee, it doesn't matter if it's your fault or not. It's your fault.
Right.
And you just got to take it. You got to keep going. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's like after you do enough, you no longer feel the need to drive 3 hours to referee in front of 25 people in a small town somewhere. It's not needed. You don't need it for any reason. It's So layers for right now. I'm very happy because I get to ref my own shows.
Yep.
I get to rep at Primos, and that's between the two of them, that's sometimes 10 matches a month, which is sometimes excessive amount of ring time. But yeah, it's like they're always fun, but it's a great time. But yeah, it's just like after a certain point, you don't need to chase it as much as you did.
Right. That makes sense.
Like it's like once you get your skill set down, it's like what am I going to do? Am I trying to be a world famous referee? There's unless you're Earl Hebner,
right?
Something like that. That doesn't exist, nor should it. I hate it when I see people when I see referees on posters and things like that. It's like, no, we're a necessary tool, but you don't put the you don't put the ring post on the poster either.
Right. So yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. So how many shows have you done with Lucha Libre and Laughs?
By the end of the year, we'll have hit 50. That's
pretty good in 4 years.
Yeah, because like I said, it's like our first 2 years we did 6 shows each.
Wow.
It was every other month, and then we started getting picked up by festivals.
Right.
And then we started doing these smaller shows, and then it was successful enough to do more shows since we had more sponsors at the Oriental.
Right.
So that's why I said we went from barely doing 6 to just barely coming in under 20.
That's great. Now, unfortunately, though, a couple of shows ago, you had an unfortunate incident with one of your performers.
That is, the first real injury in a Triple L ring, and it's, it's a contact sport. These things happen. But no, one of the really great women wrestlers here in town, Nanny AC, she was in mid-match with Ali Gatto outside at the Square on 21st, outside El Chorrito. We had a great outdoor show, and something happened with just one of the. It always happens when it's the simplest of moves. They just landed wrong, broke her collarbone clean in two.
Oh boy!
And being 10 times tougher than I ever will be, she finished the match. Yeah. And she posted on social media her collarbone. I mean, it didn't just like crack; it broke clean in half and was overlapping. I mean, it's, believe it or not, that requires surgery. Surgery requires money. So, it's something where we are going to put together a little fundraiser for her.
That's great.
On 17th of September at Ratio Beer Work here in town. Okay. So it's going to be a, free show. People show up, buy all the beer in the world, because that's going to help out. Cash donations, profits off of the Triple L t-shirts go to her. We'll probably set something else up online for people to help, because she's going to be out of action for 3 to 4 months.
So you're going to try and maybe set up a GoFundMe or a PayPal account for that?
We'll look at doing that. Like I said, I just want to make sure she doesn't have to suffer financially as much as she suffered physically.
So make sure you let me know when you get something set up, anything that I can pass on to our listeners that they can, if they want to help, they can help.
Oh, that'd be wonderful of you. Yeah, thank you.
Again, with news with the female wrestlers, you got a pretty big event coming up here on the 22nd of September.
Yep. So we're having the little fundraiser mini show on the 17th, which is a Sunday, and it'll lead up to Friday, September 22nd at the Oriental Theater. We're having a tournament to crown a women's champ. So it's Lucha Libre and Laughs, Smash the Glass Ceiling, live at the Oriental. We are having the first all-women tournament show to crown a champion. We got some really amazing talent on that lineup. We have, former NXT star Leva Bates, Ali Gatto, Jakara's Solo Darling, Lainey Luck from Kansas City, Sage Sin out of California, and Unholy Trinity. So quite a nice little field there of really tough women who are going to beat the crap out of each other.
Now, I noticed you've only got 6 women in the tournament. How are the brackets working out here?
It's going to be 3 singles matches.
Okay.
And then the final will be a triple threat to determine who's walking out with that belt. Whoever pins somebody down for a count of 3 gets to hold that belt up high. Yeah, and then we also counterbalance it with an all-female comical lineup. That's the other thing with Colorado.
Oh, that's great.
The women in the Colorado comedy scene are amazing. So, we have a great lineup there with Nora Lynch, Rachel Weeks, Miriam Moreno, and Allison Rose, all brilliantly funny ladies. So we had killer women in the ring and killer women on the mics. Be a great experience for everyone. Hopefully we don't get too many perverts wondering if they're selling their socks after the show, but we'll find out.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the comedians, because with this being a wrestling podcast, I was kind of leaning toward that, but the comedians are just as much of an important part of your show.
Oh, absolutely. And that's something that I think has surprised a lot of people, because I think some people have thought it was going to be like a mystery science theater thing where it's just some hipster dweebs making fun of wrestling, where they're just going to crap all over the wrestlers and wrestling in general. But it's no, I mean, they do zing them when they when they have the chance. But these guys know wrestling. They know it very, very well. They know the history. They know the moves. They know everything just as well as any play-by-play person out there. The difference is they're also hysterically funny.
These comedians are great. Like I said, they're as much a part of the show as the wrestlers are. And so we don't want to undersell the value of the comics at all.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they are what make the show what it is. I mean, Anybody can, put together great matches. They're just a wonderful, unique little spice sprinkled across it. They're the paprika of the recipe.
Well, and at the same time, anybody could put on a great comedy show, but you add the wrestling in there, and it's the same thing. So you're consistently on the, top 10 things to do in Denver. You've discovered a formula that gets everyday people into a wrestling show.
Yep, I mean it's something we've lucked out because the Denver Westward has been a amazing champion of the show. They're constantly putting us on their like things, top shows of the month or thing to do this weekend. Yep. We've gotten their yearly Best of Denver award for Best Comedy Night 3 years in a row.
That doesn't surprise me.
And then we've also lucked out where we're usually on TV, local TV, with a feature like 2 or 3 times a year. Like Channel 9 did an amazing bit on us. It was shown right after the Super Bowl, like literally Super Bowl news, and we were the first story.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, and then we're always like around summertime when we're going to our festivals, we're always getting TV spots, getting to go on, do promos, plug it that way.
Excellent.
So the combination of putting the comedy into the show, the media being as kind as they have been, we've done something very strange, which is we'll fill a theater and only I'd say about maybe half the people there watch wrestling. There a lot of people just go for the weird fun experience.
Mm-hmm. But you get a lot of repeat business from that, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I'm tooting my own horn too much when I say that I don't think anybody has ever attended a Triple L show and walked out and said, "No, that was pretty good."
Yeah.
That never happened.
Yeah. I mean, I know it was one of the one that I made it to at the Oriental because I was down in Colorado Springs, so it was hard for me to get up there multiple times a month. When the one show at the Oriental that I did go to was incredible. And I walked out of there not being able to breathe because I'd been laughing so hard. I was trying to record the matches, and I couldn't put them up on YouTube because I was shaking the entire time because I was laughing so dang hard.
Yeah, and was that the show? It was like that January show where it was a blizzard.
It might have been.
Yeah, because that was the show. Because that was the show. Because that was one of those nights where kind of made me feel like, okay, we're getting where we need to be as a show. Because we sold out a week before the show. Yeah, 100% sold out. And then the day of the show, it started snowing, and it was pretty bad. So I'm like, oh gosh, oh boy, what are we gonna do here? Hopefully, at least a few people show up still.
It was full.
That place. Yeah. And we actually just kind of went on the assumption that people wouldn't actually, there would be enough people not showing up because of the weather. So we started selling tickets at the door anyway. Yeah. So we technically sold that place out by 125%. So that was one of those nights where I'm like, okay, cool, this show is getting where it needs to be.
So let's move on to the future of Lucha Libre and Laughs. You've told me a few things about potential things happening in the future. Why don't you go ahead and share them as much as you can? I don't know how much you can throw out there, but
pretty much what it is we are a unique product, and we've gotten, I guess, the right eyes have fallen upon us. So we have been talking with a couple cable networks. But that's us and 5,000 other people. But it is nice to actually be able to say, cool, well, we have gotten into the door with this TV network or, with this streaming service and actually been able to talk and pitch and discuss things. Who knows if anything will come of it. So for now, all I can really do is just keep my head down, keep working hard on the local live shows. And if something comes of that, amazing. If not, well, we'll still be putting on great shows here in Denver.
Next year, how many shows are you looking at running as of right now?
I do not know. It's funny, after last year when we had so many shows, I was like, oh man, I need to take it back a notch. That was too many shows. I'm exhausted. And then we always take December off. It's a hard month to do live entertainment. And so, but then it was by the time January showed up, I'm like, oh man, we got to book a lot of shows. And once again, I was like, all right, well, this year we'll take it a little bit easier. And then I realized by mid-August, I'm like, we've already done 13 shows this year. Because we got to do, like I said, a couple of expansions this year. We got to be part of the Boulder Taco Fest at Salita's brewery, which was an amazing little experience. They took really good care of us. It was just hundreds of people packed around the ring having a lot of fun.
It's good as long as people aren't taking selfies with their children while people are diving out of the ring.
Oh dear Lord, yes, that was you heard of that? Oh yeah,
you told me. We talked about it.
For the listeners, what happened was it's a beer and taco festival. People are gonna be a little loose, if you will. And one of the, during one of the lucha matches, one of the guy got thrown out, and he's on the outside trying to get to his feet. This guy clearly had a few drinks in him, but still holding a baby, is trying to get like a picture with the wrestler who's getting to his feet, turns around and takes like an over the shoulder selfie right as the other wrestler was visibly like up on the corner ready to dive down onto him. And the wrestler dove, crashes, smashes the wrestler who's already on the ground, and knocks the guy who's holding the baby back a couple of feet. He turns around, and in the greatest lack of paternal care I've ever seen, he just goes, "Yeah!" and starts cheering. I'm like, sir, you nearly got your baby killed. You should have some sort of protective instincts to not let your baby be killed by a wrestler.
That guy definitely was not an ambassador for his people.
Oh no. Oh no. But that's like I said. That's the downside when you're doing these festivals when it's outdoors. People have been drinking for hours.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something. Somebody's going to try to get in the ring or something like that's going to happen. Wrestling is a martial art.
Yes.
Those holds work. So if like I said, even if it's you have your opinion on their athleticism, and it's like normally it's like, hey, well, that's a 6'5", 250-pound man who lifts weights all day long. Oh, but it's fake fighting, so I bet I can take him. It's like, no, why would you? Why would that be your thought? Well, one time we had at the Taco Fest, there's always been like, for some reason, it's always like something happens. And it was the very first one. We had some dweeb who decided to try to get in the ring mid-match. Yeah, it didn't go well for him. Guy tried getting in the ring. He's drunk and he doesn't know how to get in. So I just kind of took 2 steps back and I foot shoved him off of the apron onto the ground. Go back to the match. He tries it again. Third time he does it again. But when I try to foot nudge him, he grabs my foot.
Oh boy!
And he's onto my foot and the ring. So I just pivot around, held on to the top ropes, and started kicking him in the head with my other foot until he slumped off to the floor.
And I mean, you're not a small guy yourself.
I am not a tiny man. Yeah, and at that point, the cops that were there grab him because as they told me, it's like, oh, we kind of thought it was part of the show until that happened.
So, who are some of the bigger names that you've had work for you?
I mean, we've had a lot of really amazing talent. We try to bring Cabana in as much as possible. Yeah. Marty the Moth, Martin Casaus, was our champ for a while.
Yes, he was.
Arya Davari, who's now with WWE.
Right.
Chris Hero was always one of my favorite people to have on the show. He's back with WWE. The Chuck Taylors, the Kikataros, we bring in a lot of people now, and I'm always trying to find because that's the one thing I always hate when I see with indie shows is they always go for the 80s legends or the 90s legends.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring in somebody who's 45, might not be terribly interested in anything other than the money you're paying them, probably not gonna be that good in the ring anymore. Sometimes there are complete exceptions to what I'm saying. But, meanwhile, you have all of these, kind of the hot, cool guys and gals out there who are just amazing to have on shows, and they're passionate, they're fun, they put on great matches, and they're just awesome people to hang out with. So that's why those are the people especially also as a promoter, you have to think about it financially for what you could pay one 1990s era WWE guy. For what you'd have to pay him, you can get 4 awesome people who can put on hellacious matches, who still have name recognition. Now that we have kind of in the internet age, we now know all the cool stuff that's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So when you bring in a Kikataro or an Eric Cannon, people go, oh, awesome, because he's not here all the time. Right. So during our July show, we brought in Darren Corbin and Zach Gowen and Greg Iron, 3. Granted, Zach was a WWE guy, but with that package right there, that probably would have gotten me 75% of an old WWE guy from the 90s.
Well, and Zach Gowen, way more talented than he has any right to be in the first place.
Oh,
and and still, it's not like he's a has-been. He's not washed up. This guy is still active, still doing shows every week, multiple times, and he's still good.
Yeah, that match with the Handicap Heroes versus the Left Coast Gorillas was one of the best matches I've ever been in the ring for. And I had moments where I was I was like, don't look so excited, you idiot! You're part of the show. Because there was a spot where Zach put Hoodie, they're beating him up in the crowd, unfolded a chair, put Hoodie in the chair, hopped back up to the to the stage, and this is a man with one leg, does a jumping leg drop from the stage down to the where Hoodie's sitting in the chair, smashing everything to hell. And it was just one of those oh my god moments that it's nice to know I'm not jaded. I can still be like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. I'm still a child inside.
That's got to be a great feeling when you're around it so much that you can still be wowed like that, and it reminds you that you're a fan, like you said.
Yeah, so I remember one time I was talking to a guy who used to run lucha shows, and I was talking about this match and this, and he was just like, I don't really enjoy it anymore. I always just look at it as a business, and I'm like, you sad man.
Yeah. Yep. Now, but with the back to the people that have worked for you, you've had a lot of good fortune in getting some people, kind of on the ground floor, like Sammy Six Guns, who you mentioned earlier. He was Travis Tyler in NXT, and now he's doing, what is it, the MLW, or what is it called in St. Louis? NWL. Yeah, and he's Dak Draper out there, Dakota Draper, and he's holding their championship, and it's not a small deal. It's actually they're trying to get pretty big.
Yeah, they're doing some really good things out there.
Yeah. And then you had Royce Isaacs, who, he was a Colorado indie guy, and he was doing the Colorado indie thing, and then all of a sudden, he owns Colorado wrestling, and he's going everywhere, going to Japan, going to Canada, doing everything, getting his WWE tryouts.
And Royce, in addition to being an amazing wrestler, a current star, and hopefully he'll never listen to this, so he won't hear me compliment him, but definitely a future superstar. It's always funny, because like I said, he's one of my best friends, but it's funny, is how he got into wrestling.
How's that?
He was in the audience at a Triple L show and asked me asked me if I could tell him where to train.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like a friend of his invited him to a show. It was like one of our it was like within our first year, and he and then he was like asking me, he's like, hey, who do I need to talk to? And I was like, hey, this is who you need to talk to. And and then it's the funny thing, most people, from training to premiere, to actually be having a match, it's usually quite a bit of time. That guy was like, from training to being in the ring in public was like a matter of months. He was just a freak, just a prodigy.
Well, and that just puts a whole new spin on things, because by October, November of 2014, so we're talking at the earliest 2013 to the end of 2014, he's the Primos champion.
Yep.
And he's been a Triple L champion. He's a 3-time Primos champion. He was the Paragon Pro Wrestling North American champion. And he's probably held God knows how many other titles. And he's he's probably my favorite unsigned talent right now. So, and then you've got some wonderful talent in Colorado with Lonnie Valdez and Chris Rath, who's not really around much anymore.
Yeah, and then you have amazing guys like the Left Coast Gorillas, which I honestly think are as a tag team that could put on 5-star matches with anybody.
Yeah. Cody Devine, he's another one who's come a long way in a short time.
Yeah, his match with Kikataro, I don't know if you saw the video of it. It's so good.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'll it's on my YouTube. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, do.
Cody's great. He's starting to travel more. Obviously we know where Royce is. Yep. Left Coast Gorillas. Those guys are getting Ring of Honor spots.
Good for them.
The Handicap Heroes, after their match, told me, they're like, thank you so much for giving us that good of a team to work with. They were just so happy that they were able to work with a really good tag team.
Another real strong talent, the miracle that is Tony. That dude,
our current light heavyweight champion.
Yeah, that dude does some insane things in the ring. And around the ring. He likes to fly a lot.
Yeah, and for some reason thought it was okay to hit a referee with a chair. very unpolite.
Yeah, he probably had it coming.
Probably did. But yeah, like I said, Colorado's got some amazing talent. It's got some amazing shows.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's nice that, we're also able to bring in, out of name talent to the point that they're just kind of cast regulars, I guess you would say. We have Kikataro and Mike Seidel here all the time now.
Oh, that's great.
And those, both those guys they're just the best.
Go ahead, tell us, let's go again. You've got the Nanny AC fundraiser on the 17th at Ratio Beer Works in Denver.
Yep.
And then you've got, Smashing the Glass Ceiling?
Yeah, Smash the Glass Ceiling,
yep.
September 22nd at the Oriental Theater.
Yep, and that's also in Denver. And crowning the first Triple L Women's Champion. And where can we find you online?
LuchaLibreandLaughs.com. Spell out the word "and," so LuchaLibreandLaughs.com.
All right.
Lucha Libre and Laughs on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Maybe we should set up a MySpace. I don't know. Get still into that. Friendster, plenty of fish. But yeah, no, we're very active. We're setting more things up on our site.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yep, we're starting to put up more matches on our YouTube channel. I'm going to be a little more prompt with that. I'm still editing stuff from May, so
yeah, well,
just a quick.
You're doing this all yourself, so I'm
doing it all myself. But yeah, and then we're setting up more things. Our amazing photographer Jeff Decker, and he's setting up a store to start selling prints of the pictures he takes.
Excellent.
And for people who have not seen his wrestling photography, go to our Facebook page, our Instagram, and check it out. He has done art gallery installations of his wrestling photography. They're beautiful pieces of art.
That is one of the things one of the pieces of advice you gave me is that you said one of the places that you've got to spend money on is your photography. Don't skimp in marketing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's 100% true. You have to make. It's like I make fun of. There's another wrestling promotion here in town that I don't have I don't have any connection with. But I wish I could tell them. It's like, guys, all the photos I see on Facebook it's like somebody's taking blurry photos with an iPhone 4. I mean, it's like, and here's the thing for the outside viewer. Your product is only as good as it looks.
That's why I couldn't watch Ring of Honor for a bunch of years, because their production value is just so terrible.
Yep, and that's the thing. It's like if my only impression of your show is bad cell phone photos on Facebook, I'm not going to be terribly interested because why would I be? It looks terrible.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you look at when you have a really good photographer doing or a really good video production, like Rocky Mountain Pro has amazing video production, so you can see how good it looks. With us, Jeff's photography make the show look probably 10 times better than it actually is. But yeah, it's like I said, those prints are going to be for sale on his side and on my site sometime very soon.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Nick, for taking the time to talk with us. And yeah, absolutely, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, we can talk to you again in the future, see how things are going.
We'll find out. Well, thanks for having me on. Once again, Lucha Libre and Laughs, all social media platforms. Follow, check us out, ask questions, be mean, whatever you want to do, folks. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, so that looks like it's it for us this week. Don't forget that we are, I should have said, we are now on iTunes and on Google Play, so if you want to find us there, just search Pro Wrestling Almanac, and we're pretty much the only ones that come up. So, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, just search Pro Wrestling Almanac and you'll find us on each of those platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook at PW Almanac, and always our website. That's the backbone of this whole thing, ProWrestlingAlmanac.com. Check it out. I keep it updated with results from the TV pay-per-views and live events that occur throughout the week for basically all promotions that we have on there, and I'm trying to expand it every day. So spending a lot of time on this and trying to improve it, expand it, and so please check it out. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes. Give us a review if you would. And that's all I've got. You guys have anything?
Go ahead, Chad. Sorry.
No, I just want to say have a good week, everybody.
Want to thank everybody for listening. One thing that we kind of glossed over a little bit, didn't go into it too much detail, was the ongoing Mae Young Classic.
We will talk about that next week.
Exactly. And, That'll be fun. Can't wait to do that. Maybe we can do a decent portion of the show on that, because some people might thought we missed out on it. We've been watching. Can't wait to talk about it. It's been amazing. Can't wait to talk to you guys next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.